welcome to another edition of Hyper Blue Reviews. Today's episode, Psycho Killer for the CDTV.
Time to die.
Yes, Mr. Psycho Killer, I'm prepared to die from boredom. Let's begin the review. The plot, if you want to call it that, revolves around the protagonist nearly hitting an abandoned car on the road. Seriously, if you don't slam on the brakes hard enough, you hit the car in front of you and you explode. Once you manage to avoid exploding, you exit the car and hear a woman scream as she is dragged off by the Psycho Killer. The protagonist decides that he has to help, so he springs into action. You find the killer pretty quickly, and he comically appears in front of you brandishing a machete. If you click fast enough, you'll kick him in the head and escape. He runs away and he leaves his machete behind. You need to grab the machete to progress the story, but leaving it behind presents a funny death animation.
I decided to press on, heading into the trees. Too late, I remembered I'd left his weapon behind.
You continue to pursue, and the killer attempts to kill you with a petrol bomb. You click his hand to escape, and it pretty much repeats itself for another 10 minutes. You chase after him, he chases after you, and you ultimately end up on a dock with the killer and the woman. If you happen to pick up the tree branch a few screens back, then you'll win the game if you click the knife in time. Otherwise, you lose. There isn't any crazy fanfare either. It's just a newspaper article stating what you did. Congrats! Psycho Killer has you navigate through fields and forests to rescue the woman and escape a gruesome fate by the hands of the killer. When I say navigate, I mean you're clicking on icons to move from one location to another. That's right, it's a point-and-click adventure game. There are a few action commands, and I'm using air quotes around the word action, but it is the result of clicking the killer on certain frames. The action scenes are not called out very well, but you don't need pinpoint precision to stop the killer. In fact, the game is pretty forgiving as it gives you plenty of time to react and click on or near the killer. And that's all the gameplay is. It's clicking on arrows to go to a different screen and clicking on the killer occasionally. This game was brought to us by the developers of The Town with No Name, Delta 4. In fact, Psycho Killer was released alongside The Town with No Name for the CDTV. Again, like The Town with No Name, the game can also be played on the Amiga 32. Psycho Killer is also playable on DOSBox. You can find the game on the My Abandonware website. However, it takes a bit of effort to get it to run, just like The Town with No Name. However, in this case, it's not really worth it. There are not many scenes to break up the monotony of clicking arrows to explore a forest. At least in The Town with No Name, there were funny scenes to break up the gunfights. Here, you just click around until you either find the killer or die. Most of the times you run into a dead end, and in all honesty, the picture is almost always the same regardless of how far into the game you are. There was one time that I ran into a cow blocking my path, but I was honestly never able to find that again. If it wasn't for the poorly animated but funny scenes, this game would be a complete waste of time. But even though those cutscenes provide a bit of humor in this very dry game, they're infrequent and don't last that long. And then, when they're over, you're back at the start of the game. Luckily, the game is very short, but having the ability to skip dialogue would have been nice. Certain scenes show full motion video sequences, although the frame rate is honestly very low. It almost looks like stop motion versus traditional full motion video. I'd go out on a limb to say this game has even less full motion video than Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Let that sink in. The scenes were taken from a variety of locations found in London. In fact, the still images where you need to click on an arrow are digitized photographs from the suburbs of London. While The Town with No Name has charm due to its graphics and humor, Psycho Killer has nothing to really make it stand out. The lack of music, save for the intro and credits, caused me to lose interest in the events of the game. The instances where the player has to click on the Psycho Killer to interact with him are not very well called out. In fact, the items that you have to interact with are not very well called out either. This makes it very easy to miss them and calls a game over. The voice acting is awful, to say the least. The main character delivers his lines with the same enthusiasm as I had in playing the game. That is to say, not much at all. The only actor to put any effort into his character was the Psycho Killer, but even he was mostly still grunting and mumbling into his microphone.
Morgan? Yes? Are you too weak to kill? No.
With that being said, I found this game to be very monotonous and very boring. I give Psycho Killer for the CD-TV 1 Dancing Psycho Killer out of 5. Hope you enjoyed the review. Thanks for watching.
Oh, my name is carved in stone. The ground is my eternal home.